Next, we hear the remarkable story of 70-year-old North Korean Christian Hae Woo, who spent several years in the country's brutal labour camps and who now lives in South Korea.
Despite torture and the cruelty of the guards, Hae Woo managed to share the gospel with other prisoners and to organise a secret fellowship of believers who looked out for one another. Her abridged story is read for us today by a young Korean. You can find the full story on our website www.opendoorsuk.org/pray.
I was lucky. After 10 months in prison, I was only sentenced to a few years in labor camp, despite my Christian faith. But I almost died in prison. The guards were relentless. They hit me with sticks and kicked me. I was so discouraged that I started to doubt God. When I came back to my prison cell, I felt completely alone, even though there were 12 other prisoners in my cell. Then I heard a loud voice. I looked up, but nobody moved or blinked. I was the only one who heard the voice. It said, "My beloved daughter, you are walking on water." I knew it came from God. I knew He hadn't forgotten me. During the years that I spent in prison and labor camp, I heard the voice a few times. Each time, it was God encouraging me.
Still, after 5 months in prison, Hae Woo became terribly ill.
I had various diseases. My back and throat hurt. I couldn't keep any food down. I was bleeding and could only stand when I leaned against the wall. The guards brought me to a hospital. The doctor told them I had only 3 days left to live. I prayed to God. I begged Him not to let me die before I had a chance to tell the world about North Korea. There were 7 guards, and I asked God to use them to help me, even though they were part of Satan's army. A miracle happened. Because the guards knew I was about to die, they gave me extra food. Slowly, I recovered. After 5 months, I was completely healed. It was amazing. I did not receive any medicine. I slept on the floor with no heating. Because of the cold, I could hardly sleep. My hands and feet were often frozen. Rats and bugs were everywhere. It was surely God who kept me alive.
One day, a big truck drove Hae Woo and other prisoners to the mountains.
When I arrived at the labor camp, I noticed the enormous fence. On it were written a few words. "Do not try to escape. You will be killed." The guards took me to a barracks that I had to share with 50 other women. The beds were side by side. Every day had the same monotonous rhythm. 5 a.m., wake up. 5:30 a.m., roll call in the barracks. We lined up with other heads bowed until we were all accounted for. Then we washed. 6 a.m., breakfast. We queued up again and slowly moved through the barracks where the food was distributed. This took a long time. We got only a small cup full of rice, maybe about 2 or 3 spoons in total. 8 a.m. March outside the camp to the countryside where we had to do agricultural work. Until lunchtime there was no break. Prisoners have no right to rest. 12 a.m. To the camp, lunch, walk back to the fields, about the same amount of food as breakfast. 2 p.m. Back to work. 6 p.m. Walk back to the camp for criticism session. We had to criticize each other and ourselves for the things that we did wrong that day. After that, dinner, same as breakfast and lunch. 8 p.m. Ideological training, the hardest part of the day. We were hungry and weary. Our eyes felt closed, but we had to stay awake and pay attention or we would be punished. 9:30 p.m. Counting prisoners. 10 p.m. bed. Despite everything, I remained faithful to God and He helped me survive. Not only that, He gave me a heart to evangelize other prisoners. Frankly, I was too scared to do it. I wanted to live. How could God ask me to tell the other prisoners about Jesus? I would die if the guards caught me. God persisted. He showed me which prisoners I should approach. He gave me a feeling. That person, tell him. So I went to the person and told him or her what is in Acts 16, that people have to believe in Jesus to be saved. It was an encouraging message for those prisoners who walked on the edge of death each day. They were easily converted, not only because of what I said. They saw the Spirit working in me. Sometimes I gave some of the little rice I got to others. When people were sick, I went to them and helped them wash their clothes. And so a secret fellowship of Christians came into existence. I tried to teach them the things I knew. Maybe that was not much, and I did not have a Bible to read from. I could only share what I knew and the verses I remembered. On Sundays and on Christmas Day, we would gather in secret places like the restroom. There we would have a short worship meeting. I taught them hymns and we sang quietly. All 5 of us survived the camp because we looked after each other. We did not get into trouble despite our secret meetings.
What an amazing account, and what bravery from an elderly woman.
Yes, as Hae Woo says herself, she remained faithful to God, and he remained faithful to her.
Let's use her account as a prompt to pray now for all believers who are in prison or labour camps in North Korea. May they know the Lord's voice and miraculous provision, just like Hae Woo.
Let's remember also the many refugees and defectors living outside North Korea, many of whom are still making the long and dangerous journey to freedom through countries such as China. Pray for all the Christians who help these refugees on their way.
And let's pray for Hae Woo, now living in South Korea. Pray that her testimony will inspire and encourage many. Let's pause to pray now.